Democratic governors are sounding the alarm on Trump's re-election. This is actually good news for Democrats. Well, it's good news and it's bad news. The good news is, at the state level, the governors are pointing out the weaknesses of the Democratic Party. They're pointing out Trump's strengths and how he's got them off message. The bad news is, Trump has gotten them off message, and as the Democratic governors point out, 2020 Democratic candidates are veering too far left in a desperate plea to get the activist Democrat base to vote for them in the primary. After the primaries, most people will move closer to the center to try and attract the biggest group of voters. Unfortunately, the activist left has gone so far left, I don't think there's going to be any recovery from this. Now look, I've made many videos pointing out that the woke Twitter base, the woke Twitterati, is destroying the Democrats. And here we can see that plain as day. Talking about abolishing ICE, healthcare for undocumented citizens. These are things that regular people don't care about. They want border security. They want these issues to be resolved. Trump is tracking the polls. Trump is reacting based on what American voters and his base want. He knows he can take certain hits, but it's not all, Trump still has some weaknesses here. So there's a lot I want to talk about, but first, I want to go over why the Democrats are concerned that Trump will be reelected. And then I want to show you some data as to why I do too. I think Trump will be reelected. I think fake news is playing into this and it's causing damage to the left. I think the ideas being pushed by the left are coming from fringe activists, but also people pushing fake news in exchange for clicks. All of this, even with biased media, will play into Trump's hands. But it could still hurt him if there's a huge turnout from Democrats come 2020. So let's get started with this story. Even Gavin Newsom has said Trump is a master of deflection. He knows the media. The Democrats are pointing this out. So let's read the story. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do, just share this video. YouTube has deranked independent political commentary. You've probably heard me say it. They don't suggest channels like mine anymore. They prefer CNN, MSNBC, etc. So if you think this video is important, please share it wherever you feel like, or just comment below and tell me why you think I suck. Let's read. Democratic governors sound alarm on Trump re-election from Politico. Outside the Beltway, there are worries the party is losing control of its messaging and forgetting the lessons of 2018. I would stop right there and say, worries they're losing the messaging? Trump has got them off message for 2 weeks now. And it's Trump, listen, I've got to say it. Trump called out Baltimore for being rat infested and crime infested. I don't see the inherent racism in those tweets like the left and the media is shrieking about. I see Trump calling out a poor and impoverished area. And if he said the same thing about Chicago, I'd be like, yes, thank you for pointing this out. We need help. We need to solve these problems. Me being a native Chicagoan, right? I don't live there anymore. Instead, what do we get? Virtue signal articles condemning Trump's character? Trump has actually gotten the left to defend rat-infested areas at the expense, or I should say the Democrats are defending this at the expense of those who have to live in these situations. So I will say one thing before moving on, talking about messaging. Trump wants to tweet about Baltimore. You have real people who know the problems they experience in these neighborhoods, and you're acting like Trump's bigoted for saying it. But those people who live there know he's right. Like the entire district in Baltimore that Trump referred to isn't all bad, but there's a lot of bad areas, and those people know it. So yeah, they're going to come out, and many of them probably support Trump for highlighting this issue. Let's read on. We'll get to that. They say, with all the infighting and intra-party intrigue in recent weeks, most recently over the prospect of impeaching the president, many Democrats in the states are beginning to worry the party is losing its grip on the message, potentially paving the way for Donald Trump's re-election. The anxiety reverberated far from Washington this week as the nation's governors gathered here for their annual summer meeting. Quote, nationally, the focus has been on last week's hearings and quote-unquote oversight, the question of impeachment, the effectiveness of Trump to make it about the 4 congresswomen who are called the Squad, Governor Newsom said Friday. That's been the zeitgeist. And so Trump being the master of deflection and distraction, it's been hard for the Democrats to sort of hold that message. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak, the governor of an early primary state and potential battleground in the general election, said that going into 2020, his constituents want to look forward. And how are we going to make their lives better? Certainly saying Orange Man bad for the 56,000th time isn't going to tell anyone how you're making their lives better. They say Oregon Governor Kate Brown, when asked if impeachment talks are beneficial for Democrats politically, said, "We should be focused on what Americans care about and what Oregonians, for me, care about, right? Making sure we have good quality jobs, that we have an education system we can be proud of, and that everyone in the state has access to health care. We saw in 2018 that when we talked about health care, we won, and we won handily. I mean, we kicked their butts." That's the good news for Democrats. At least some of them are waking up to the strategy Trump has employed, the victories he's gained in sending these Democrats in a spiral, and how they can actually try and talk to the American people. Now listen, this is good news for everyone. Everyone, okay? Even if you're on the right, on the left, doesn't matter. If we can get more politicians in this country to talk about what makes America better and what makes American lives better, well, then we're going to have actual work being done to make things better. When the Democrats are more concerned with calling Trump the orange man, saying orange man bad, nothing gets done, things get worse. And while that will help Trump win, I don't think that's not the kind of victory we want. The victory we want is for the best person with the best arguments to win and to make this country better for everyone, for the common defense, for the common good, to increase the quality of life of everyone. Be that Trump or anyone else, I just want to see America succeed, and I think many others do as well. But for too long, the Democrats have either been too concerned with the character of Trump, or actually I think they're mostly concerned about the fact that they lost, and they're angry they lost. And instead of just saying, here's how we can win in 2020, they're saying, no, we didn't lose 2016. Trump cheated, it was the Russians, Mueller and obstruction. No, stop, okay? Even if Trump didn't win because it was the Russians, fine, you're not going to win by doing this. Sure, the investigation's over. It wasn't true. Stop. The Democratic governors are right. So my respect to them for saying this, what I've been saying for a long time. And that's kind of been my shtick, okay? I'm looking for leaders who will make this country better, be it great again or great in general, whatever your perspective is. But when the Democrats, the left wing of this great eagle, are too busy concerned about losing 2016 and they don't talk about what Americans need, then we are a crippled bird. That's what someone said to me. They said an eagle needs 2 strong wings to fly, and the left has been a mess. But let's read on. They say, for Democrats attempting to focus the electorate's attention on healthcare and economic positions popular with general election voters, a second round of presidential primary debates next week is likely to add to their frustration. Yes, thank you. The party's sprawling field of presidential candidates are outbidding each other with increasingly liberal positions on impeachment, criminal justice, and immigration that are being demanded by the party's base. No, Politico, not liberal. Trump's criminal justice reform was liberal. And I don't mean liberal in left, I mean liberal as in freedom. Trump worked on a bipartisan effort over criminal justice reform, and he was praised for it. But mind-numbingly, people just want to be opposed to him to such an amazing degree, they will reject anything he does. You don't have to like the guy or think he's a good person to be happy when something good happens. And that's what's crazy to me. It seems like too many people in this country just want to say orange man bad for the sake of orange man being bad. They call his tweets about Baltimore racist, and I'm like, listen, man, I don't see it. Is Bernie Sanders racist? Okay, I get it. Trump was mean about it, but the substance of their tweets were similar. Was PBS racist? We'll get into the Baltimore stuff. But I'm going to agree with Politico here. These next debates, I know what's going to happen. The people I'm willing to support are those who call out the nonsense and stand on principle. We're not going to see that in the debates. We're going to see Democrats doubling down and not going liberal. They're going to be going far left identitarian. Most people do not hold these views. So props to the governors for understanding this. And they understand it because they're governors. They won. They understand the message that brought them to victory. And they're saying, you gotta talk about what people want in this country. I think everybody would be willing to accept, maybe not everybody. I gotta say, it's mostly moderates and conservatives who would be willing to accept, but liberals too, like some liberals. There's an element of the left that wouldn't accept any victory, any good for this country if it meant Trump won. Think about Bill Maher saying, bring on the recession. Bill Maher actually entertained the idea. It would be better for this country to fail and for people to suffer if that meant Trump wasn't president than to have Trump president with a prosperous nation. To me, that's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Listen, if Trump was the worst charactered individual in the country and everything was good, no war, better economy, well, then we're better off, aren't we? And you can ask for someone better. That's how I view it. I'm asking for someone better. I'm pointing out that Trump's character and foreign policy I've been critical of it. It's been bad. He's done some good things. The country is doing well. I can't argue with that. And I think you're insane if you do. Instead, we have people who are willing to just burn it down if it means they win. That to me is scary. So here's what I'll say. Mostly like centrists, leaning center left to conservative, you've got 60%, 70% of this country saying, you know what, fine. If Trump wins, fine. So long as things are better, I'm willing to accept. We've got a boorish man, a bigot, whatever you want to call him. I'm not saying he's listening. I'm saying, call him whatever you want. If the country is doing well, I will accept that and say, fine. I'm not going to argue with people's lives being better, with their jobs coming back, with their kids going to school. But there are people who will. So to get to my point, good on the Democrats for pointing this up. Now I'm going to jump ahead because I want to get to some of the key points that I want to bring up in talking about woke Twitteratiism, fake news, and why Trump does what he does. A recent poll by a leading centrist think tank found that less than 3 in 10 Democratic primary voters support abolishing ICE. Listen, this is just the Democrats. It's not the conservatives. It's not the moderates. Democratic primary voters, around 30% support abolishing ICE. That's just your primary base. So this even refutes the idea the Democrats need the woke left. Listen, the Democratic debates show us how in the primary they're desperately trying to attract the activist base to win. But even the activist base only makes up 30% of primary voters, not general Americans. But 64% of those who tweet at least once a day do support abolishing ICE. The alarm for Democrats is that the gulf between those presidential primary voters and the general public is quite deep, said Lene Erickson, Senior Vice President for Social Policy and Politics at The Third Way. Listen, Twitter is not real life. It really isn't. There are certainly things we can call out, things that are bad from wokeness to whatever political faction, fine, call it the bad stuff. But when even the primary voters don't agree with abolishing ICE, and they come out and say they're for it or support it, or some of these other wackaloon positions, it's just Twitter driving you insane. Quote, if it sounds like Donald Trump is the only one who cares about keeping our country safe, that's bad politics by Democrats, Erickson said. What voters want to know is that Democrats also care about knowing who is coming into our country and following the laws and making sure it's not a free-for-all. But that part is much more difficult in a Democratic primary. Completely agree. The Democrats just are off message. And Trump, listen, there are some pros and cons to Trump's strategy. There may be people who say, Trump is such a mean guy, I'm going to vote against him just because he doesn't deserve to win. Even if it means watching the country burn. Like Bill Maher said, he wants that recession if it means getting rid of Trump. To me, that's nuts. Okay? Trump can be mean and nasty all day and night. I don't care if it means people are living better lives. That's the goal, right? So I can accept there's a guy I don't like who's running who's in office because the economy is doing great. Why call for impeachment over nonsense because you lost? But here's the thing. Let's talk about some other issues I'm not happy with. I absolutely, within every cell in my body, oppose the death penalty, even for the most nightmarish and horrifying people. I do. But I recognize Trump is taking action based on what the people want. In this story from June 11th of last year, public support for the death penalty ticks up. I don't believe my morals trump yours. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I personally think it's wrong to kill someone when you've already restrained and they're no longer a threat. I also understand it's very expensive to keep them locked up, but I don't know the right answer. I just don't like the idea of the state killing people. I don't know. I don't. But I can recognize the majority, according to Pew, 54% support this and only 39% oppose it. So you have a majority who are for it, and then you have a decent amount who don't know, and 39% who oppose. While I can respect those who support and oppose it, I personally oppose it. I know why Trump is doing it. He can see that support for it is going up. So this is why Trump takes action. It was said to me recently, Trump just wants to be loved, right? He puts his name on buildings. He wants to be on TV. He wants to be Trump. He wants his name in lights. He wants people to love and respect him. And I was talking to someone recently who said if the left just played flattery to Trump, he'd be willing to work with them on a ton of things. He'd give them a ton of what they wanted if it meant they were giving him respect. They don't. So Trump says, I'll play to my base because they always give me the love I want. I believe that's true. I believe Trump is the kind of person who wants everyone just to know and love and respect him. And that means he will take action based on what he thinks will generate the most love and respect. So here's the point. You can say Trump says things that are mean and disgusting and he tweets these things. Yes. But look at his support base. He knows he's lost the media, so he doesn't care anymore. He knows he can play up these things on Twitter because were his tweets about Baltimore racist? They weren't. It's crazy to me. Like, coming from, I'm going to say it, coming from the second generation of mixed race families from the south side of Chicago in one of the most racially diverse parts of the city and the country, I don't see it. And you know what? You can accuse me of being ignorant. Fine. You have to explain it to me. But I don't see it. And Trump knows that. He knows the woke Twitterati are nuts. He knows the political sphere is nuts. Look at this poll, like I'm telling you again. 64% of those who tweet it once a day believe in abolishing ICE, but not even the majority of Democratic primary voters agree with that. Those are the Democrat activists. They don't even agree with you. So were Trump's tweets racist? I don't see it. I just see the media going nuts. So when Trump moves to bring back the death penalty, while I disagree with it, I get it. I am in the minority on this one. I don't know how to respond to that other than to voice my dissent and vote. But the majority is for it. And it's not my decision to impose my morality on other people. But let's move on. Someone said to me something interesting. I tweeted about this. I said 2020 Dems need those activist votes in the primary, but these far left extremist positions will make them unable to win in general. This person responded, because milquetoast centrism did so well in 2016. What a foolish, foolish mistake. Frankie here, Amadeus2123, excellent tweet, by the way, saying, Hillary was center left, which is why she won the popular vote. It's fascinating to me. People think going further left will get you more votes. It will not. And not only that, the places Trump won are not far left areas. They are moderate areas. The swing states flicker between left and right. They are not far left. They are in the middle. The Democrats have lost it if they think far left positions will win them Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio. They don't care. It's almost like they're sleeper Republicans trying to drive the Democrats as far left as possible by pretending to be Antifa on the far left. I'm kidding, by the way, but I'm making a point. These people don't realize Hillary Clinton won the majority because she was center left. But she was arrogant. She was a corporate elitist. She wasn't milquetoast centrism. She was everything I think is wrong with the government and would refuse to vote for. I wanted to vote for Bernie. And I know a lot of people who are Bernie or bust. I can understand it, absolutely. Trump and Bernie had a lot in common. A lot in common doesn't mean everything in common, but on free trade, on borders, they did. And that meant a lot to the working class in this country. Bernie has now become an establishment candidate. I can't support that, right? I disagree with that. The point is, moderate left-wing policy would have won. But Hillary Clinton was an arrogant corporate war hawk, so she did not have what she needed. More importantly, though, outside of that, she didn't campaign where she needed to. And Trump played strategically and won for those reasons. But to stress, even with Hillary Clinton being a bad candidate, she still got the majority, the popular vote. That's not what you need to win, but it does show more people in this country were willing to go that direction. It could be, however, a lot of Republicans in the blue states just don't vote. And I think that's fair to point out as well. And because the blue districts are condensed in cities, I think you're going to find way more Republican voters in blue states than you will find liberal voters in red states. Take it for what it is. I think, all in all, Trump would have beat Hillary if she did play a similar strategy. Trump knew what he was doing. But let's move on. I've got a few things I want to address. We'll be a little bit long on this video. Politico says Trump's good week. For a few days at least, the president was on top of the world. Yes, because they're talking about the distractions. They're talking about impeachment, the Mueller hearing. This is Politico, okay? Politico is kind of like a moderate political website. It's not like, they're pro-Trump or anything. I wanted to point this out. They do go on to say that Trump is facing challenges, okay? They say the president slated to travel to Cincinnati next week for a rally. The latest major poll of Ohio voters shows him trailing his rival Joe Biden there by 8 percentage points in a state he won in 2016 by nearly 9. I don't trust the polls, right? But I'm just pointing out, don't let arrogance get in your way, because that's a big mistake anyone could make. If they think Trump's got it in the bag, don't be surprised when you lose. I think Trump is slated to win. I do. I really do. But hey, man, I'm not a mastermind. I'm not a genius. I don't know everything. I can just see what I see in the media. Now let's talk a little bit about Baltimore real quick. The Daily Wire publishes, Trump called racist for saying Baltimore is rat infested, but PBS aired documentary confirming Trump's comments. And I read through the story, and I talked about how there's a double standard in the media. They let Bernie say, like, Bernie says all these things, no one cares. Trump says it, now he's racist. I don't understand. PBS ran a documentary where you heard the mayor, I believe it was in this documentary, saying you can smell the rats. There are videos from local residents saying Trump is right. Well, what do you want me to do? Like, what? Okay, Trump called it out. My response would be, if it were Chicago, like I mentioned earlier, thank you for highlighting the problems my city faces, and maybe now with the attention, we can get something done to solve it. Check out this story. I want to point out these two things that I think shows how the media is harming the Democrats. BuzzFeed News. Trump's latest racist comments included calling a majority black area a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. The president's own housing secretary, Ben Carson, lives in the district. BuzzFeed News writes, President Donald Trump went on another racist rant this weekend. What did he say? He said it was a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess where no human being would want to live. Hyperbolic, aggressive, bombastic. Not, I would say the second part of it, I wouldn't call correct. I'd say it's an opinion. But rat infested? It is. There's documentaries about it. I don't understand why they're now saying it's wrong for him to point out what, for all you know, Trump watched PBS and then called it out. And now he's a bad man for it. This is what gets Trump brings in a victory. The media is trying to get these clicks. So they're saying all this stuff that people can't see. I assure you, there are going to be people in middle America who are like, I don't understand. There will be people in Baltimore saying, what do you mean he's racist? He's calling attention to the plight. Now, I'm sure there'll be people in Baltimore who are like, hey, man, don't you talk about my city that way, right? Sure. The point is, can you really call Trump racist for pointing to a problem highlighted for years by other outlets? Simply because the population is a minority population, that makes no sense. If I can't criticize my own neighborhood because it was mostly made up by minorities, what does that mean? I don't even understand. If I said my neighborhood on the south side was gang infested, had rat problem, well, I don't think it had rat problems, but it was gang infested and drug infested. Is that racist for me to call out my own neighborhood in that way? I don't understand it. I really don't. And then they say, if you can't see it, you must be racist. Oh, okay, thanks. And it's really funny how it's always these white progressives calling me, the non-white high school dropout from this area, calling me out for that. I just don't see it. And that is going to be good news for the president. It really is. But take a look at this. Aaron Rupar tweeted, Trump suggests that he was a 9/11 first responder. That's the tweet. How many retweets? Let's see how many. It's got 623 retweets. He's got ratio, but no. Let's listen. Trump suggests he was a 9/11 first responder. What did Trump say? I mean, he literally says the opposite of what you tweeted. Quote, and I was down there also, but I'm not considering myself a first responder. I'm really at a loss for words. To me, what I heard from that was Trump saying, look, I was in New York. I was down there too. Don't call me a first responder though. He said, I don't consider myself a first responder. I don't see it as him trying to be like, I was. He literally said he doesn't consider himself to be, but he was down there a lot. I'm pretty sure he was down there a lot. In fact, interestingly, I think he wrote a book about it a couple of years earlier that he wrote there was a passage in a book where he said that, we have a serious threat from Osama bin Laden, things like this. I don't know the full details. The point is, Trump loved New York. You don't have to think he's a nice guy, but he did a lot of work in New York. Of course, he thought it was an issue. I'm sure he was active. I don't know. Doesn't mean he's a good or bad person. It just means he was doing it. And then he said, I don't consider myself a first responder. This is how the media does it. This is how they frame it on Twitter. When the Democrats chase after this narrative, I'm going to end with one thing. A warning. Arrogance. Trump's really putting himself at risk with these strategies. He really is. Look. With his Baltimore tweets, he's effectively gotten the woke Twitterati to defend the rat problem. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. We know Baltimore's dangerous. We know it's got a high murder rate. It's got crime problems. It's got poverty. It's got garbage and rats. It doesn't mean anything about the people. It means we need to help them. So look, I don't know what else to say other than like I have friends who live there, and I'm like, yeah, let me know, man. I'm down to help. There's people organizing a cleanup now to go down there, Trump supporters. Here's the thing. Check out this Real Clear Politics average. In the past week or so, we have the polls going from the 21st to 23rd, the 23rd to the 25th, the 15th to the 25th is the average. Trump's disapproval has gone up a bit. Here's what's interesting. Trump's approval rating is still looking at a near 2-year high. He's enjoying a very high point in his presidency. Look at this. It's higher than it's been basically ever, except for right when he got elected. Interestingly, though, even though in the past few days it's gone down around 0.4 of a point, like about a half a point, not too bad for the president, it has gone up a bit from a low of 51.6, now shooting up to 53.6. So a couple points gained in the disapproval. What that says to me is something interesting. Trump's base mostly is unfazed. In fact, in some of these instances, his tweets were followed by support. When Trump tweeted this stuff about the squad and all that, his approval went up. So it's flickered up and down just a little bit. His disapproval, however, went up. I'm curious as to how his disapproval goes up more than his approval rating. It says to me that his base is unmoved by the fake news and the smears, and there are people now who are uninitiated who might not like him. So this is the warning. If Trump activates moderates to vote against him, people who normally don't pay attention to the polls, who don't care about the polls, who don't vote, are now saying, I do not like this man. He might wake up moderates and either make them go independent or not vote. And he needs to get the centrists to win. You can't make the same mistake the Democrats made. The Democrats seem to think that going far left is going to win, but that's not how the game is played. You need moderate voters. If Trump loses that, it's trouble for him. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up at 6 p.m. youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all there.